And what I want to do today is bring you somebody from MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell, who has the last word on the nightly broadcast there in his interview with Representative Swalwell. And the two of them were discussing how Rush Limbaugh's pull way back to 2002 to try to make the 9/11 event a part of where the deep state, how the deep state got started with Colin Powell and the Saddam Hussein event. Mr. Engineer, roll clip number 3.
With the news that Russia is interfering in our election on two fronts, to help the Trump re-election campaign and to help the Bernie Sanders campaign to win the Democratic nomination, tonight is one of those nights when it's worth considering, what do Trump supporters really think about this? Donald Trump doesn't give Trump supporters enough information to actually think about this. Donald Trump just lies. He says it isn't happening. He says Russia's not attacking our democracy. He says it's a hoax. It's fake news. He doesn't even say full sentences. But Rush Limbaugh speaks to Trump supporters for 3 hours a day. President Trump gave him the Medal of Freedom for his flawless support of the Trump 2016 campaign, once Rush Limbaugh realized that Donald Trump was actually going to win the Republican nomination, and for his flawless support every day of the Trump presidency and every day of the Trump re-election campaign. It is Rush Limbaugh who has the time and the wild imagination to supply Trump supporters with the full theory of the case about why no one should believe that Vladimir Putin is really doing what Vladimir Putin is really doing, what Vladimir Putin publicly said that he did, which is interfere in the election. Rush Limbaugh gives Trump supporters the counter theory to the Mueller report, proof that Vladimir Putin has invaded our election process. And it is deeply twisted and weird and hugely contradictory to what Rush Limbaugh himself said in the past, and it is delusional and insulting to the intelligence of any thinking human being, and it all begins with weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That's right. You need to know what these people are telling each other, and so I ask you just this once, to listen to 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, of the demented madness that Rush Limbaugh pumps into the brains of Trump supporters every day, because this is the reason Donald Trump is president.
These are the people that told us there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Let's go back to the Iraq War, 2003. George W. Bush spends a year and a half traveling the country, preparing everybody, lobbying the American people to support it. Goes to the United Nations, has satellite photos, all kinds of stuff. Colin Powell up there showing the photos, supposedly, of weapons of mass destruction installations in Iraq of Saddam Hussein, and the European, our allies in the intelligence community, all support this. Now, Bush, as a Republican, probably not popular with the deep state, particularly after how he was elected. You know, there was outrage. The Florida recount in 2000, a lot of Democrats, a lot of deep staters think that Gore should have been president. He won the popular vote. They think the Supreme Court unfairly put Bush in there. I think there was as much resentment in the deep state, we just didn't call it that then, for George W. Bush as there is today for Donald Trump. And if not the same, it's close. I think, how could so many different intelligence agencies get something so wrong as weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? And remember, they gave Bush mounds of satellite photo evidence, documentation evidence. Colin Powell was dispatched to the United Nations to present this evidence, and it was all bogus because we went in there. It was the pretext for invading Iraq after 9/11. We get in there, and there are no weapons of mass destruction. It was one of the most embarrassing things. The Bush administration had to scramble. Everybody had to scramble. What I have seen, this bunch of people in the intelligence community capable, what they've tried with Trump here, this whole Russia meddling, Trump colluding, this whole thing is a gigantic lie, a totally bogus hoax, a silent coup. That's when I began to think the weapons of mass destruction thing was a setup against Bush, too. My point is this. Why should we believe these people?
And that is how Rush Limbaugh won.
You gotta take your hat off to Rush. Mr. Engineer, bring me up full screen. This is really a stretch what Russia, I mean, in case you have difficulty trying to wrap your mind around what Russia's saying, Rush Limbaugh is saying that all of the accusations against Russia meddling in the 2016 election and Trump being in collusion with Russia and all the things that were investigated with the FISA court warrants and all the things with the reports that came out and the people arrested and Paul Manafort and the meeting at Trump Tower, all that was nothing but a concoction of the deep state. That it isn't real, that Russia really did not interfere with the election, that Trump was not involved. Trump did not seek or get any help from Russia, from Vladimir Putin. And so what Trump is saying now, but what Rush Limbaugh is saying is that this is all done, concocted by the so-called deep state within the government, State Department. But he says, and now let me show you that this just didn't start with Tribulation Trump. This started all the way back in the year 2000 with George Bush. That this whole matter about Saddam Hussein having weapons of mass destruction, having yellow cake, and having all kinds of germ warfare, and then Bush making the decision to invade. He sends Colin Powell to the United Nations and say, we got the evidence. Our intelligence agencies have been able to come up with the evidence that there's yellow cake, that there's mass, if you will, germ warfare power that Saddam Hussein has, and he must be stopped. He must be taken out. He was a part of 9/11, and so Bush charges into Iraq. In the Iraq war, where thousands lost their lives and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis lost their lives, and they found no weapons of mass destruction, right? Russia's saying, that's what happened. They had a deep state against Bush, too. Against President George Bush, Herbert Walker. They had a deep state against him, and this deep state continues to live now against Tribulation Trump. Which is a stretch. I mean, okay, Rush, I know that you are sick, and I went easy on you. A lot of people thought that when you announced that you had cancer, I was going to blast you as a racist, and a whole lot of other things, white supremacists, and would wish you hell rather than wish you well. A lot of people say, I know Pastor Man is going to wish Rush Limbaugh hell. But I went safe on you, Rush. I meant soft on you, Rush. I'm not go soft. I'm a human, I figure that maybe, you die and bust hell wide open and you have to stand before the judgment throne of God. He'll judge you, or maybe I'll judge you. I don't know. But I didn't. But Rush, now come on, Rush. Come on. Trying to judge. Everybody knows that Russia meddled. Come on now. WikiLeaks, Julian Assange. I mean, the Hillary Clinton emails, the hacking of the emails, the going. Come on now, Rush. This was no deep state. This was actually out there. Now, there may have been some people, and you keep trying to talk about Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, members of the FBI, and Trump jumping on James Comey and McCabe as being against them in the deep state. Come on, Rush. That ain't the case, not at all. And you know it isn't. But that says to me, who has a learned mind on these kinds of issues, that obviously the idea of the deep state is fading. And many of the Trump supporters are now on the edge. They're still saying, if you call them, are you with Trump? They're saying yes, but it's weakening now as they're looking at Trump really going off the deep end. The man is a pathological degenerate. And a large number of Trump supporters, they say if you call them, you're on the poll, are you still with Trump? Yeah, I'm still with Trump. You're a MAGA hat wearer. I'm a MAGA hat wearer, yeah. But really, they're beginning to look and say, now, wait a minute. This man, Russia really did help him. And do we really want, and people are now beginning to, at the kitchen table, and some of the Southern Baptist churches and deacons meeting, the trustee meetings, they're beginning to say, is this really what we want for America? And moreover, a lot of people that support Trump are saying, we feel like the Negro people. Obama he talked a lot of, Obama talked the talk, hope and change. Obama talked the talk for Negro people. But man, Negro people are doing worse now than they ever did. And Trump is talk about helping us. you know, and we ain't doing that well. You know, we are watching the billionaires become bigger billionaires, but we're not doing all that well right now. So Trump support is soft. It's like a soft-boiled egg. All you gotta do is crack that shell, and you see that thing. You know, they call it a hard-boiled egg, right? You crack that shell of Trump support, it ain't as strong as they think it is. So now Russia's trying to step in and help him out. That's what that's all about. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.